Gotcha. Well, cool. Well, yeah, thank you for hopping on and taking this opportunity to kind of talk about
Yeah.
what you do with cycling without age. Um, so yeah, why don't you just start off with kind of giving like a brief overview of what the program is about.
Sure. Somebody, just because have been involved with cycling as an event director for many years at the Chequamegon Fat Tire Festival and organizing local rides and doing a few rides. Somebody sent me a link on Cycling Without Age because they knew my mom had just entered the senior housing living situation, assisted care in Hayward. On her 94th birthday, we moved her from the north side of Detroit on her 94th birthday to Hayward. And so she's closer to two of her three sons because we live in the area. And somebody sent me a link on the Cycling Without Age and said, hey, your mom would probably like this and all the people that are in the assisted living. So Cycling Without Age started in 2012 in Copenhagen. And if you go online, there's a great TED Talk video that explains the program. They're represented in 50 different countries. They have several thousand chapters. They've installed over 3,000 trishaws. So it's a three-wheeler. People think of it as a rickshaw. I always think rickshaws, passengers in the back, pilot in the front. The trishaws, the pilot is in the back and the passengers are in the front. And there's over 30-some thousand trained pilots. So I'm a pilot on one of these bikes. And actually I do the training at the Hayward Area Memorial Hospital, Water's Edge. Water's Edge is the senior housing. I sent them the link. I told them about the program. I said, hey, would you like to get involved with this? They wrote a grant. They received some grant support to receive 2 bikes. One of them arrived last summer, and I gave rides all during the warmer season to some of the residents at Water's Edge. And the second of the 2 bikes just arrived, and I'm pretty excited about it. While the first one is a passenger bike that you could ride 2 people in, the second one is more of a cargo style bike that has a cargo front end with a drop down platform that someone from the care center, from the nursing home in a wheelchair could be wheeled onto the platform, and then you can give somebody in a wheelchair a bike ride. Imagine that. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. And the bike's 7-speed internal twist shift activated with a 4-speed e-assist. And it's not too hilly around the hospital. I basically ride it around the paved parking lots and the sidewalks, about a 45-minute loop I do around the hospital. Take people out a couple of rides a day when I'm piloting. But when you have the canopy up and the wind's blowing and you got somebody in the seat, you're happy to have the e-assist. I mean, it just kind of takes the edge off a little bit. Not suitable for off-road riding. I'm, certainly an off-road person, but you definitely want to keep this on the pavement, something that's not too bumpy. But basically, that's the program. The local hospital got into it. They got a couple of bikes. I became the designated de facto pilot trainer. So I've trained a few people, and that's how the program got started in Hayward.
That's awesome. What's some of the like more fondest memories that you've had with someone that you've taken out, or their reactions, their emotions from the experience?
I can think of a couple of things, Parker. So I'm a volunteer at Water's Edge. I work in the lunchroom, and basically I take drink orders, I bus tables. I don't serve food. That's for the official CNA people to do. And so I have conversations with this population. There's 40 units at Water's Edge. but they're real short conversations, like you're walking by somebody and how's your day going? And isn't it nice? Have you been outside yet today? Is it going to snow? They're very short conversations. When I get them in the bike, these people who are septuagenarians, octogenarians, they're 90-year-olds. My mother is the oldest person I've taken for a ride, and she's 96 and a half. Of course, she's always chatting all the time, but the people one-on-one, I'm sitting behind them. They're up in the passenger thing. They got the wind in their hair. They're enjoying the experience. I learned all about their life, their family, what they did for a living. I mean, I actually got to know these people, and it was wonderful. I mean, when you go on a bike ride and you start just chatting, just talking. I mean, if it's not a hammerfest, and you converse and you look around, and we rode. It's pretty wooded around the hospital campus. Actually, there's a lovely lake there, Indian School Lake. There's some wonderful mountain bike trails, but there's also a couple of little gravel access roads. One of my passengers, Karen, had macular degeneration, so she couldn't really see a lot of the details of the ride. And I said, Karen, you know what? Right on the side of the road, I see these wild strawberries. Let me go pick a couple. And she couldn't see the wild strawberries, but I gave her a couple of wild strawberries, and she just thoroughly enjoyed them. And when the wildflowers had come out, you'd have a discussion. One of my passengers, John, was a forester, and he just unloaded on me about all the trees around the hospital campus, what the forest was looking like. And I, living in the woods, I asked him some forestry questions. Another one of my passengers had a daughter who was a internationally performing concert pianist. I never knew that, but when we went for the bike ride, I found that out, so very fun just to get to know these folks, to get to know this population, and to have them open up a little bit about who they are and, how their life has been. And my cat's starting to attack me now. So this is Callie. Oh, here's Callie. Callie, say hi to Parker.
Hi, Callie.
She's the computer cat. The other one could care less. But anyway, it's mainly the personal interaction with these folks, and they recognize me as a cyclist because I've had this actually today 450-day in a row cycling adventure, and they'd always ask me about my bike rides, where I was going and what I saw, and super fun. Sadly, and as it is a sign of the times, because of the COVID-19, all the volunteering has stopped at the Water's Edge Senior Living in Hayward. I'm very thankful for the precautions they've taken, because that population is most at risk, because they're an older population. So I actually don't get to go inside to visit with my mom. I haven't gone on any bike rides this year, and I can hardly wait till they get to the point where, maybe if you're masked up and you wipe everything down, you could take somebody for a ride, because really they say if you're outside, everything dissipates, and it's really the best thing for you to be outside. And I sure would like to get these folks back out on the bike, but that's not my call,
Yeah. But do you definitely see like there's a future for this, especially in the Hayward area, the other pilots that you've trained, and definitely like something that's like a program here to stay?
Yes. So it started out, they got the bike. I learned how to ride the bike. I trained a few people. My mother took the first 2 rides. She's always trying to get other people to do things outside of what would be their normal comfort zone, their normal behavioral pattern. People were real hesitant to get out, and we had a sign-up sheet. And then, I'd have to say my mom was working on the crowd for me, And so somebody else would sign up and they'd go for a ride and they'd tell somebody else what a great time they had. So all of a sudden the ride sheet was filling up and I was the only pilot. I would serve lunch and then I would do 2 1-hour rides during the day. And I had trained 1, 2, 3 other people, but they didn't feel like they had a big enough demand to increase the program. Now, people are familiar with the program. They've enjoyed the rides. They've got the second bike, so that opens up another population in the care center of people to go out in their wheelchairs. So I think yes. I have a lot of friends that have said they'd like to learn to be pilots. So I think this would have been the summer had we not had the COVID-19 situation, where we probably would have had 3 days a week, twice a day, where we would have gone out for rides. And as it is, we've kind of shelved it for now. And I think again, as shut in as everybody's been, I think when it opens up again, I think they'll be standing in line to go for a ride. You know,
Awesome.
One of the things they're trying to do, so the campus is Hayward actually has a pretty good for a small North Wisconsin town, a pretty good bike pass system that gets around town, which is, bike and running, skateboard specific off the road, except there's a small disconnect, about a 1/4 mile disconnect between the last spot that the bike path is and the entrance to the hospital Water's Edge. And you really don't want to take the 3-wheeler out on the shoulder. It barely fits the shoulder and it's high-speed traffic. That's not a place you want to take it. So one of the things they're working on is having somehow working with the DOT, working with the DNR because it crosses a wetland, but somehow create this little connection to that bike path. And you, being an urban guy, you've seen that where bike paths all of a sudden they end,
Right.
because of funding or easement issues or something like that. So once they make that connection, then I could take people to the library, or I could, ironically, I could take them to one of the taverns downtown. I had a couple of guys ask me if I'd take them down to Anglers on the main street of Hayward. I said, nah, it's out of my range. I'm not allowed. But, there's a library, there's some parks that you go to, there's some little ponds in town. So once they make that connection, then again, that'd be a vehicle to get people off the campus. So I think it will grow. It's just that we're in this goofy time that we're in right now. Sure. And you have to deal with it as best you can.
Very cool. Has the cycling or the bicycle come up in any of the conversations from when you took guests out that this reminds them when they were a kid riding a bike, or is that a topic that comes up?
Very much so. Very much so. First and foremost from my mom. My mom reminds me that when they lived in Detroit, that she and my dad had a couple of old clunkers that they would ride, and there were people in the neighborhood. And she said, we'd ride around and we'd pick up aluminum cans when we saw them, and we got 10 cents a piece for them. It was like they were on an Easter egg hunt in their little suburb. And other people, I often ask them, did you have a bike when you were a kid? And oh yeah, we did this and we did that. And yeah, the feeling you get from cycling, just the real kind of physical and mental euphoria, because you're propelling yourself through an environment. I had a just spectacular gravel road ride today, and it was so green and moist, and flowers were popping up, and of course there were a lot of mosquitoes too. But people, this cycling without age allows people who can no longer cycle themselves to get out and have that same experience that you had when you were a little kid. And that's the beauty of the program, I think, is and for the elder population that may be moving into some memory situations, loss of memory situations. It's very stimulating to get outside and feel the wind and see the trees moving. and see the chipmunks jump across the road. And oh, we had a there's a little flowage at Indian School Lake, and there's actually a dock. And so we would ride the bike down and watch people put their boats in and find out how the fishing had been. And I'd ride them over to the trailhead of the Gateway Trail, which is just the best set of small loopy flow trails that Chequamegon Area Mountain Bike Association, CAMBA, which you're familiar with, has built. And so my passenger and I would interact with people that were going out on the mountain bike trails. Where are you going? Look at that bike. It's a fat bike or a kid's bike. And so yeah, it's a good experiential thing for people who have less and less experiences because of their age and their mobility and their physical and mental acuity.
Very cool. Very cool.
Whole different aspect of cycling. Who would have thought?
Yeah,
And it literally is one of the most rewarding things I've done on a bike. I mean, I just bar none, and I've done a lot of different things. I took my mom in the Cable 4th of July parade last year. Oh my God, what a hoot was that? Downtown Cable, which you're familiar with, was just packed with people. And our local Chihuahua Mamas Bike Club has, it could be 20, 25 people. We're just riding around in circles on bikes, amazing people that we don't crash into each other. And I took my mom in the trishaw, and it was decorated. And my mom got to interact with everybody along the parade route. And I mean, it was a real treat. And sadly, the 4th of July parade is canceled this year. So we won't be doing that this year, but we'll be back. We'll be back next year. I can hardly wait till the next time. And it'll be fun. We'll have 2 bikes the next time we do it. So
definitely.
All right, Parker.
All right.
Peace out, buddy.
Yep.
Very good.
Cheers.
We'll stay in touch.
Yes, of course, always.
All righty.
Right. Bye-bye.